Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. Well, Western governments cannot seem to help themselves at all. This is just clinically schizophrenic. This is self-destructive. This is suicidal. This is damaging on so many levels. So the latest thing is that the European Union has agreed on a ninth package of sanctions against Russia. They have not learned from the previous 8 packages of sanctions, which have driven them up to inflation rates that go back that are the highest in 40 years, 50, depending on what products you're talking about, 40 years, 50 years, all the way back to World War II. And yet, here they are, introducing more sanctions. What are these sanctions focused on, and what is the result going to be? It's going to be decreasing either imports or exports to or from Russia. What have previous sanctions done but drive up prices and reduce availability of products, including food, energy, etc.? But they're not happy with that. And by the way, Russian trade has actually accelerated this year over last year, including with the European Union on all items other than energy. Okay, think about the why. Okay, if capitalist entities in Europe are still buying from or increasing trade with Russia, what does that mean? It means that what they are buying, importing, is either less expensive or of higher quality than what they can get elsewhere. There's no other reason that they would be doing this. Now, if you're limiting exports to Russia, what you are doing is concurrently decreasing your own industrial output. So you're reducing jobs. So you're going to have to look for other resources which are going to be lower quality and or higher prices or both. And meanwhile, you're decreasing your industrial output, so you're reducing the number of jobs available for your own populace so that people aren't going to be able to buy things, or they're not going to want what you're selling. This is suicidal. They are collapsing their own industrial base and their own economy. Meanwhile, the latest proposal from the White House is to send another $27 billion to Ukraine, which is enough money to end homelessness in the United States and possibly hunger as well, at least for a year, 2 years, whatever. The homelessness issue is a major issue. Study after study after study shows clearly that it costs more money to maintain a homeless population than to house people. But of course, there are a lot of entities that are making money off of this. And you can find all kinds of reports on how this is being exploited by capitalist entities. But let me show you some numbers here. This is the eviction lab that is run by Princeton University. But let me show you a few details about this also while we go. All right, so this is the eviction lab. All right, the number of evictions since March 2020, 1.56 million. In the past week, 9,630. This is only in 8 states and 31 cities. This isn't the whole country. This is 1/6 of the country. Now, look at the list of the states that they track. California's not even on it. Florida as a state isn't on it. I'm guessing that the states and cities that are included in this are states and cities that have chosen to voluntarily include their numbers in this. But New York as a city does engage with this, but 179,000 evictions since March of 2020. 179,000. That's just New York. Houston, 135,000. Phoenix, 108,000. Las Vegas, 93,000. I mean, here's what to think about, though. Those numbers I just showed you, those are the number of evictions. Take 179,000 for New York. 179,000 evictions does not mean 179,000 people. That means 179,000 households. A household can be anywhere from 1 to any number of people. But let's average it out to 3. So you're talking about maybe 600,000 people that have been evicted since March of 2020 in New York alone. But we can send $27 billion to Ukraine. The Pentagon is unable to account for a cumulative $23 trillion, and nobody is held to account. Nobody is held to account. But we can't afford universal health care. We can't afford universal adult education. We can't afford universal day child care. We can't afford to house our homeless. We can't afford all these things that we can't afford to do. Meanwhile, the European Union is now just giving lip service to talking about how America is charging too much money for what for what they're buying from us to replace what they cut off from buying from Russia. That you did this to yourself. So, I don't feel sorry for European governments. I feel sorry for the European people. But even there, only to a degree, there are rising numbers of protests happening, but not on the scale that need to be happening. So you're the ones that need to be the European people are the ones that need to be out there in the streets. Meanwhile, in America, does all of this price gouging, which is what America is known for, does it mean that there are more jobs here? No. Layoffs are increasing. The unemployment rate continues unabated. And that includes the, higher paying jobs. The tech industry is laying off in mass numbers. We're not exporting things. Like I've said in previous videos, because of the inflation rate in Europe, European citizens are barely able to survive. So they're not going to be buying consumer products that the United States exports. What is the end result of this going to be? Okay, so Europe places sanctions on Russian goods. Well, that doesn't mean Russia's going to stop exporting goods. Instead, what's going to happen is that they're going to be offering the same goods at a discount to other countries like India, which is expected to become the third largest economy globally within a few years. They're increasing trade with China. So all of these countries that are being sanctioned and having tariffs placed on them and trade restrictions placed on them, they're going to increase trade with each other at lower prices than anything that you can buy in the U.S. or Western countries. We decrease competition. We decrease the sources from which we can purchase from, the places that we can export to, which reduces the number of jobs and drives inflation upward. This is going to lead to the absolute collapse of all Western economies. There is no way around this. As this continues, this is not going to hurt Russia or China or Iran, etc. It's not going to hurt them. It's helping them. We are entering a multipolar world. This is going to be a situation where the poor cannot survive in the West. But it's probably going to improve the economies in Eastern and the global South, because they will continue trading with each other. 75% of the countries in the United Nations, 75% have not signed on to these sanctions. It is only the United States, Europe, Australia, and Japan to a degree, and yet Japan is still engaging in an oil project with Russia, an oil or gas project, I forget which. But they're still trading with Russia. So, no. Yeah, you can't say, oh, well, it's a united world against Russia. No, it's not. No, it's not. And then you've got other countries, all these countries, Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, etc. Even allied countries are paying attention to what has happened to Russian assets being frozen or seized at this point, which is something that should have been evident for many years with the freezing and seizing of assets of Iran and Venezuela and other countries. Well, now this takes it to a different scale. Well, what if America decides they don't agree with us? Are they going to seize our foreign held assets? If we hold U.S. treasuries, are they going to refuse to pay these out? So countries are starting to ditch U.S. treasuries and U.S. debt. And if the United States can issue debt, but if nobody's buying it, then what good is it? Yeah, keep on printing money, but where's that money going to come from? I mean, well, we keep on cutting taxes for the wealthy. What good is all this doing? We've got fewer jobs, far fewer living wage jobs, decreasing social support programs, rising homelessness, increasing illness. Our education system is vastly, grossly underfunded. For decades, we have seen 35 hospitals per year closing in this country, most of those in rural and low-income areas. But, and well over 2 million people a year declaring bankruptcy because of medical bills. We can't afford to support our own people. But we can still keep on sending another $27 billion to Ukraine for a war in a country that we have nothing to do with, except for arms. That's it. That's all. No peace talks. No, now is not the time. Now, any time since 2014 has not been the time. But we've been giving them money and arming them and training them since 2014. Ever since the right-wing overthrow of the democratically elected government of Ukraine. What is the end goal here? What is the end goal? What result do you expect to come from this? Anyway, share this video, talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this channel and my presidential campaign, and I will catch you in the next one.